right, it's time for what I call Neil's spiel. I hope you didn't think the prior 30 minutes was a spiel, because that was well thought out and thought out from the heart. This is more just period rage. Another Democrat saying that we got a bad deal on Obamacare. And this is coming from the guy who helped write Obamacare. Obamacare co-author Tom Harkin, well, regretting, now saying, and I quote, "What we did is we muddled through and we got a system that is complex, convoluted, and probably needs some corrections. All the prevention stuff is good, but it's just really complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated." To which I say, you think? See, I shouldn't do that. I was just talking to a man of God, and now I'm talking to Steve Moore, who's very close. Steve Moore says that is because Democrats did rush to pass this law without worrying about the consequences. But, Steve, you argue they knew very well what was in that law and very well what was coming down the pike, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I was one of those few people who actually read it. And also, that gives me advantage over some of these senators who are now opening their eyes with these true confessions and saying, you know, we didn't know it was going to be this complicated. We didn't know it was going to raise costs. I think this is, there's an important political lesson here, which is when you ram something this big through, when you're trying to restructure 16% of the U.S. economy, a multi-trillion-dollar industry, with hundreds of pages and regulations, with members of Congress not reading it, with not one single Republican, not one Neil voting for it, maybe you should suspect that something is wrong.
Why are they doing it now, though, Steve? I mean, Chuck Schumer certainly doesn't have to worry about re-election for himself. He's almost a lock in New York. Harkin is gone, unless it's guilt or whatever. But I'm hearing more and more of this stuff, and increasingly either they or others are throwing anyone but themselves under the bus.
I think you saw the new poll numbers that came out today, that Democrats' numbers are worse today, Neil, than they were a month ago when we held the election.
That's right.
That party is in a meltdown right now, and it's not because people fall in love with Republicans. It's because the party simply is not responded to the election. I think Obamacare is a big problem. Look, what did almost every voter say in exit polls when we had the election last month? Jobs, jobs, jobs. Obamacare is anti-jobs. Climate change agenda is anti-jobs. The immigration reform is anti-jobs. All of this stuff is a side case to what people really care about. Well put. Well put. Steve, very good seeing you again, my friend. Thanks so much for putting me on after the Reverend. Boy, is that a tough act to follow.
Yeah, you stung compared to him.
Thanks a lot, Neil.
I'm kidding. You're a great man and a good man. Steve Moore, best-selling author, former Journal editor. All right, now Rush says Republicans are mush and that they're caving after winning. Now, it's one thing for a conservative radio host at Icon to say that on his show. Quite another when it isn't Rush Limbaugh. But this guy's saying the exact same thing on this show. After this.